Good evening and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker-Hagan, and my co-host, Dr. J.R. Thicklin, will be joining shortly. Tonight, I'm so excited and happy. I have two amazing guests. It is voting season. This is our right. This is the only time that we, the people, can actually speak up for ourselves and be heard. I have former Senator from the state of Florida, Perry Thurston, joining us tonight. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Valerie, and it's great to be here with you.
I'm so honored to have you as a guest. And you served for from 2016 to 2022.
Absolutely. I served 8 years before that in the Florida House as
Right.
well, where I was the Democratic leader. But yeah, I served 6 years in the Florida Senate.
And tell us about your journey. You're an attorney by trade. What made you want to get into politics?
Well, that's very interesting. I grew up right here in South Florida with the public schools here. I went off to school at Morehouse College, and I went on to law school at the University of Miami. But when I was here working in the community, president of bar associations, also coaching little league football and being active in the community, quite frankly, a opportunity came open where there was a seat open on the Florida House. I had several people ask me about considering running for the office. I didn't start in local politics. I started at the state level at the state house, and it was an interesting journey. I would say the past 14 years. My last day of service was the beginning of 2022. So, I thought it was a great experience for me. Uh, Between the practicing law, I practicing mostly public finance and criminal defense and the actual service in the legislature, I think we're able to to accomplish a lot, but there's so much more to be accomplished, and it starts with voting.
Absolutely. Now, there are people that are intimidated. There are new voting laws that are put into place to suppress voting. Could you expound on that a little to bring more clarity to what that is looking like for those that are trying to vote this year?
I'll be more than happy to, Dr. Valerie. One of the impetus for me actually running was I don't know if you remember back when the current candidate for governor, Charlie Crist, was running for office back then. As president of the TJ Reddy Bar Association, we challenged all of the candidates to do something about restoration of rights. So it's been an issue for a long time. And a lot of people don't understand voter intimidation and suppression come in all forms. And it's surprisingly, it's different from state to state. Quite frankly, there are some states where you can vote even while you're in jail, let alone having your rights reinstated. And there are
Wow.
other states where they're automatically reinstated, but Florida is one of the worst states, and they always have been. But back in 2006, then Governor Charlie Crist signed an executive order allowing people to actually have their rights reinstated. And if you go back and look, that was the largest number of people to ever be reinstated, given their rights back to vote. But the first thing that Rick Scott did, Governor Rick Scott, when he was our governor, when he came in, he rescinded that executive order on day one of his administration. And that lets you know how important it is. Sometimes we take things for granted, but when others are so adamant about trying to keep us from having it, it, it lets you know that it's a right that you've
It's
got to utilize and that you've got to cherish. But I think that, with what we see right now with the voter suppression and intimidation starts with the governor going out and actually arresting people who were given voters registration cards and told that they could vote. But to take it to the extent to actually go and arrest people,
right.
you would not believe the number of people who right now are intimidated because of that act that the governor did. They people who have legitimately have their rights reinstated, but they're questioning, do I want to take a chance that I may
Take the
be
risk.
arrested? That just that thought is enough to say that that's criminal the act that he did to arrest those people. So
Yeah.
voter intimidation comes in a lot of forms, a lot of suppression. And there's never been anything wrong with drop boxes. But the Florida legislature made a point to make it more difficult for people in the height of COVID who didn't want to go and have interaction. They wanted to make it more difficult for those people to utilize the drop box. And it's just, I mean, it's on its face, it's suppression.
Absolutely. Now, in the state of Florida, where do individuals stand that have a criminal record as it relates to voting?
You know, that's very interesting that you say that because if you think back, Dr. Valerie, to that Amendment 4 that have passed overwhelmingly, giving individuals the second chance and the opportunity to vote, the first thing that the Florida legislature did was went in and started tampering with it, started talking about, well, fees and fines. There was absolutely nothing in the legislation that dealt with these fees and fines. That's just an opportunity for the legislature and those in control to change the will of the people. That amendment got more votes than anybody who was on the ballot, any other issue. So it was a cross section of Floridians who were supportive of it. So right now there is it's a limbo, but we have material that I will be able to provide that's really coming from the NAACP and several organizations to instruct individuals who have been convicted but believe that their rights have been reinstated in terms of what they need to do and where they need to call. I kind of am a fill in tonight on your show, but I promise you I'll get that information to you from one of my good friends up in Tallahassee, Pamela Birch Fourth. I'm going to be talking to her and I'll get that information to you, Dr. Valerie.
Thank you so much. I have my co host, Dr. J.R. Thicklin, that'll be joining us here.
Dr.
Absolutely. Good
Dr.
evening.
Thicklin, hello.
How are you? Listen, you
Well,
had me about to jump out of my seat there because you're dead on it. You're dead on it, and we've got to do so. You know, I
but
often tell people,
Dr. Thicklin, I wish I was as sharp as you are tonight. But you're right. You're right on point with the issues. I tell Dr. Valerie that it all starts with us getting our people out to vote.
it's imperative that we do. You know, I often say I was born and raised in Selma, so
Oh,
I was born and raised in Selma at a time where, though I was a little boy, a little kid, I saw the urgency and felt the urgency thereof. The people we read about in the history books are the people that helped raise me. They were my teachers and principals and individuals. And one thing that I have seen with this voter suppression, it is just another form of the things that we might as well be counting jelly beans in a jar. We might as
you're
well
absolutely right.
continue to do those things because what we're seeing now is that every time we rise above something, record turnout voting in 2020, record turnout. And how are we rewarded? We're rewarded with more suppression. It's like,
Mm,
okay, let's move the goalposts. And it's meant to disturb us, to distract us, to frustrate us, to get us to back up. But we have to overcome it because what we see at work is this: to take the life out of what voting was meant to be is criminal in and of itself.
Right,
It's criminal. It's criminal. What this state did with Amendment 4
right.
is criminal. I wish the
And
Supreme Court could have stepped in and really weighed on this matter because of the fact I have worked with many returning citizens. And
right,
some of them, I mean, first of all, we've done a great job to overcome it. Don't get me wrong. They continue to put the barriers because we know that even after it was passed and all those things was happening, what did they start doing? Well, if you owe fines, you can't vote. You know, if you got,
right.
I mean, come on, now it's not. So now you're paying to vote is really what you're saying. After you've been given the right by law, now we're going to make you pay to vote, hoping that you don't have money to pay your fines.
But
mm-hmm.
Dr. Thicklin, I think you're absolutely right. When you talk about counting jelly beans and poll taxes, it's all the same. It's just
Yeah.
another barrier put in front of people for their constitutional rights. So we have to be adamant about it. We have to. let make sure our community understands that we don't take off in a midterm election. We can't afford
Can't
not
afford
to
it.
show up for any election,
Any
especially
election.
midterm election. That was the problem that we had with President Obama. The people didn't
Exactly.
show up to support him in the midterm election. So we need this, and we need it drastically. When you look at the stuff that's going on right here in the state of Florida, that's why we need the citizens in South Florida and across the state. But certainly in South Florida, we're dependent on them, not just to say, oh, we won Broward. We've got to win Broward overwhelmingly to make
Yes.
up for some other areas of the state. We're a state that's really like five different states. And this is a
Absolutely.
section of the state that has to show up. If we don't show up and show out and show up in record numbers, we can't overcome all of those people who will show up on the other end. And what's surprising and what should be scary to me is the number of people who actually showed up to vote for the former president after seeing how he had run. Now, those people are going to show up.
Mhm.
So we've got to get our people to show up if we want Naomi Blemur to have an opportunity to win her election. If we want Val Demings, who have like put herself out there on the line. Val Demings had a position she could have kept for the rest of our eternity, the way she performed in her first 2 years up there in
Mhm.
Washington, D.C. But she's making the sacrifice to run for the Senate to help us out. So we don't depend on people like Joe Manchin. We can get a senator who we can count on every vote if we get out and vote. And we have an opportunity to win that election. And what does it take? It takes our community to make sure our community shows up. We know the people in our family who's prone not to show up and to have
Right.
excuses. Those are the people. We vote early, and then we make sure the rest of the people show up and show up in record number. Show up like Obama is on the ballot.
Wow. You you put it so plain. You make it so real. That is what we've been working on this end here. Souls to the poll. Although some of the suppression is meant to cut that down,
Right,
but we do have souls to the polls, at least on this end in Palm Beach, on this weekend here. In other ways, we have to do so. One of the things that are working against us, but we can use it to work for us, is that the churches have been very slow in opening back up.
right,
So
Yes.
that type of feeling of galvanizing the church like we used to and go forth is kind of been kind of affected a little bit. However, it doesn't mean that we can't use exactly what we're using now: social media, other platform, and encourage our people to get out and vote. They have to understand it's not just about the presidential election. The
right.
midterms is really where the rubber meets the road, because
Absolutely.
other than that, what we're doing is playing, okay, we get one, you get one, we get one, and that never worked. We have to do what we need to do. And when we get that done there, we're going to make some inroads. So, I'm out there along with others, and we're saying, get out to vote. We did a lot to get people out to register to vote. And now we're saying, look, take advantage of early voting. Now, look at how much they cut that back. All of
Right,
this is part of voter suppression. And what they're doing is that I just got an email just a second ago that's talking about Clarence Thomas and some others. They are hell bent on not allowing the Voting Rights Act to go forth. They're hell bent on it not happening. But for what other reason? Because voting is just that important. It's the only thing that gives us a voice. Every individual gets a voice to vote. That's why your vote is your voice. And you put it out there. And we have to be vocal when that's being affected. And we have to be vocal from high school campuses all the way on. And when I say high school campuses, there are many seniors that are 17 turning 18 before
right,
time to vote. We have to grab that population. We have to continue to move that up through the college rank, through every discipline. We're seeing it happen. Even the pro sports organizations are now doing what? We're finding football stadium. They're opening their stadium for what? For voting and for people to
right.
galvanize with voting information. We have to take advantage of that. The same force that they're using to discourage us, That's why all these things are there. People, like you said, people being arrested for voting. What type of shenanigans is that? It is the most unconstitutional thing that we can think of. Literally, we're going to
Right.
arrest you
Another
for
scare
voting.
tactic.
And
Another
then they
scare.
do that after the people have already spoken. When we talk about Amendment 4, that was
Yeah.
not just one party or one race. That's the people from a cross section of the state. We're saying, in all of our communities, there are people who've been disenfranchised. And
Yes.
everybody was basically saying, well, give everybody a second chance. Give them a second chance, to vote. Even if you
Yes.
don't want to get a firearm, give them the right to vote. That's even stronger than any type of weapon. That right to vote is something that we cherish. And I like you, Dr. Thicklin. I'm so proud of some of our sports figures and entertainers who are stepping forward and being more relevant in terms of issues that really affect our community. Because the young people, they listen to them. They
Yes.
Absolutely.
listen to those entertainers. They
Mhm.
listen to them more so than you and I. They should listen to
Exactly
us,
right.
but uh, you've got to meet them where they're at, and that's where they're at. We've got to make sure we encourage them. I was encouraged as a young man to vote and participate, and if you encourage them when they're young, they'll continue to do it throughout their life. And we need voters throughout their life. We don't need anybody to be disenfranchised and not participate. You know, no matter which side you're voting on, but participate. We need you to be there,
Exactly.
show up, because if you don't vote, then that's a vote. That is a vote if you
Right.
don't show up.
Absolutely, because someone is ultimately going to win. As I said, Senator Thurston, would you please stay in studio? We have another guest that'll be joining us.
Absolutely. I look forward to hearing your other guests, so I'll be here. You just
Yes.
come back to me whenever you can.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Dr. J, introduce our next guest, please.
Okay. Well, our next guest, listen, she is a force to be reckoned with. She is running for the Secretary of Agriculture. Her story is incredible as she shares a story coming from Haiti, watching her grandmother and watching her family work by the very sweat of their brows to have just the things that we all deserve. She turned her attention to making good on that. She made good on it because she followed not only the persistence and the blueprint that they have laid out, but now she's come to the point because she now understands there are a lot of things that we miss out on in our state because of the fact we don't even understand what is it that the Secretary of Agriculture does. And so I am absolutely ecstatic after hearing her for the first time at the Lincoln Johnson Democratic Gala this past weekend. And I heard her, and I'm like saying, we've got to get her. So we're glad to bring to our forefront and welcome to Hot Topic from the Soul, this Naomi Esther Blemur for Commissioner of Agriculture.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much, Dr. Valerie. Thank you, Dr. Thicklin, and to everyone who is tuned in on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you are. I bring you greetings. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here this evening.
You know, I heard you last Saturday at the Kennedy Johnson Gala in Palm Beach. I did not know what to expect. You know, I may have seen maybe, a sign, a billboard, and I haven't connected anything. And I'm sitting there at the table and I hear your voice because my back is literally turned where I'm sitting. And you get to going. And there was fire, there was passion. Listen, I turned around. I was like on The Voice. I turned my seat all the way around. And I'm like saying, goodness gracious, because it wasn't just the passion in which you said it, but it was with the knowledge and the conviction in which you said it. And I had no idea that, I wanted to. I told Dr. Val about it. I said, listen, I heard, and I said, we've got to hear her again. And you're here. So please tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit. You share with us your background there. Share with us a little bit how you got to this place and why is it that you want to be our Commissioner of Agriculture?
Thank you again, Dr. Thickling. I remember distinctively being at the gala last weekend, and I just knew that, at the end of the day, we continually tell the people that you have to vote, you have to vote. Your life depends on it. Your life depends on it. But I also believe that the person who is communicating that need to communicate that with fervor, need to communicate that with passion, need to communicate that with zeal. There has to be something that comes out of your mouth to lift the hearts and the mind of people and to move them into action. And I personally, I decided to run because I did not see that visible in our party. That's number one. Number two, I looked at the history of the seat in the 1800s when the constitution of this state was being established. It was not called Commission of Agriculture. It was called Commission of Immigration. And I quickly tied that to my grandmother's story, who was an immigrant from Haiti, came here in the 1980s, could not read, write, or understand English, but needed to make a living. And she found that living picking tomatoes in Immokalee. And I can truly say that not only did she work to make a living, she gained the American dream and she actually became a US citizen. And she had sowed the seed that has produced the woman that I am today. I'm the first woman of color in the history of this state to file for the seat, to qualify, and to win a party nomination. And not only that, I am also the first Haitian American in the history of the state to run for a statewide seat. And for many of you, if you know anything about agriculture, right now, agriculture is the second largest economic driver in the state. It is a $100 billion industry. It has been built on the backs of Black and brown people. And so I thought to myself, pourquoi pas? Why not have a daughter of Haitian immigrant to be the Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services? And then last but not least, I looked at the current commissioner, and when she took the seat in 2018, coming from Broward County, she had never ran for office before. But she believed in herself. She believed in what she was going to bring to the table. She believed in where we were as a people and chose this seat, ran for it, and she won. She won the seat by large margins in the primary, and then she secured it in the general election after 20 years of Republican leadership. That's not an easy. And as an elected committee woman for the Miami-Dade Democratic Party, I just don't think we should sit around and twiddle our thumbs and act as if we have this in the bag when we don't. Because if the Republicans take the seat, trust me, for another 20 years, we will not have anything to do with agriculture. And not only that, we just had Senator Thurston, who is one of our former state senators, and he knows all too well that right now the Republican Party can make decisions without Democrats 100%. They don't need our input. And you know what? If we do not get to working and we do not get to engaging our communities and letting them know that there is something great at stake, guess what? They can have the entire cabinet as well. And it is my job as a leader within the Democratic Party, as a leader within the state of Florida, to ensure that that does not happen come November 8th.
Well, you said it absolutely well. And these are things that people really do need to know. We cannot take anything for granted. And the danger of taking it for granted is the fact that we put ourselves in a position, as you say, to lose. And not only to lose, but think about 20 years of having not one Democratic person to sit in this seat. But even more so, it is the fact that we have to recognize what you pointed out about agriculture being the second. It is the second leading driving force of income and things in this state here, and we have to be about those things. Wrong decisions could actually hurt us in ways that we cannot even imagine. But even greater, I like the fact of what you said in being a pioneer, in being a trailblazer, in being that individual who dares to dream. You dared to dream because your grandmother dared to dream, and you saw the pattern and you saw those things here. And I don't know about anyone else. I know that I'm going to continue to sound the alarm between now and November 8th for people to get out to
Me
vote.
too.
And I want them to know your name. I want them to know what you stand for. I want them to know your passion, because I am telling you, it is not only needed, but I think you bring clarity to it. I think that you bring to us all this ability to dream and to know what all happens with the whole Commission of Agriculture. We don't always know. We hear
I
titles,
was
but we
just
don't know.
Yeah, I was about to ask her what gamut does that cover? Because I know my husband, he's retired wildland firefighter, and he looked to you, individuals like you, to look out for them and protect them while they're out there fighting those fires and the injuries that they've succumbed to. And um, it's just a whole umbrella of things that the commission does, because you enlighten the individuals, because people will go vote and they're like, I don't know what she does. I don't know what this is about. So it's not important enough for us to vote for, but it is important. Can you please state your case of what it is that you intend to do?
It is extremely important, Dr. Valerie, and we want to ensure that not one person who goes into a voting booth, or not one person who is voting by mail or voting during early voting, we do not want not one person to skip Commission of Agriculture and Consumer Services. There is not
Yes.
one thing that you're doing right now in this state that the Commission of Agriculture could not have an impact on. Whether you're talking about our environment, the quality of the water that we're drinking, food inspection and quality control in the supermarkets, the gas pumps, making sure that when you pay for $20 of 93, you get all $20, and you get 93, and that little needle actually moves to show that some gas has actually gone into your tank. This is all the responsibility of the Commission of Agriculture. This person also manages a budget of $1.9 billion. Yes, with a B. That person oversees 3,600 employees. That individual manages some 19 departments and offices. That covers the statewide department for Commission of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Now, we always hear about the agriculture part, which is extremely important. And I just stated to you guys earlier that agriculture is the second largest economic driver in the state of Florida, and it is about $100 billion. So all farmers are included in this. All farm workers are included in this. All livestock in the state of Florida is also included, and all of the forests in the state, right, is also included in agriculture. Then we go over to consumer services, right? And what is consumer services? That department is the clearinghouse for all consumer complaints for the entire state of Florida.
Yes.
Everything that you are consuming, from a bottle of water to your rent, right? Or what we would call housing, the Commission of Agriculture and Consumer Services is responsible and regulates that. And that person is supposed to ensure that our rights are not being violated as consumers. When you talk about concealed weapon license, if you're applying to be able to carry a concealed weapon, that is the Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services. All nonprofits in the entire state of Florida is regulated by the commissioner. All mechanic shops, all body shops are also regulated by the commissioner. If you operate a private investigative firm or a private security firm, that is also regulated by the Commission of Agriculture. And earlier,
Wow.
the senator was talking about Amendment 4. The commissioner does not only have a role as the Commissioner of Agriculture, but that person also serves as a cabinet member with the other three elected individuals for the state. So the state of Florida is run by four individuals that makes up the governor and three cabinet members. So you have the CFO, you have the attorney general, and you have the Commissioner of Agriculture. And those three cabinet members are independently elected to do what? To ensure that the governor doesn't do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
All three individuals are his checks and his balances. We are to ensure that he is doing the work of the people. Now, if you have 3 members that totally fall in line with the governor and will not challenge him and will not hold his feet to the fire and allow him to do every and anything that he wants to do without any questioning, then you have a situation where the people will not get their needs met. Because ultimately you will have a governor and an entire cabinet that is doing what one person desires to do. And that is not what we want, especially with the fact, as I mentioned earlier, and the state senator mentioned, that the legislator is currently run by the Republican Party, and they do not need any input from us in order to bring forth the laws that ultimately govern our lives.
Wow.
I have definitely been educated. Thank you so much, because I had no idea you covered such a large gamut. Oh my goodness, I had no idea. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm sure individuals in the audience have been enlightened as well to your duties if you should become elected.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
I'll
you.
say this to you.
Right before we go into that, before you go into your next question, Dr. Thicklin, I want people to understand that I'm not asking you to become your next commissioner because I want a job. I'm not asking you to become your next commissioner because I'm looking for clout or I'm looking for political power. I'm asking you to become your next commissioner because diversity is extremely important in this state, and there is currently no diversity within the cabinet. We do not have someone who is going to speak up for us and who is going to be concerned about us. And really quickly, with Hurricane Ian that just took place, I took 8 days out of my campaign, postponed my campaign activities just to go into 3 major counties that were hit. And guess what? Black and brown folks are being left out while they have their entire life sitting on the side of the road waiting for the dump trucks to come and pick it up. We do not have a person that's saying, hey, these people have literally lost everything. This is their Katrina. They need hot foods. They need to be they actually need, they're displaced.
The displaced need to be relocated. Yes.
They need to be relocated. There is no one sounding that alarm. And I had to not only go to those 3 counties, I assessed what their needs were. I actually videotaped them communicating their concerns. And then I wrote an open letter to Governor DeSantis and his wife. Why? Because at the end of the day, leaders are only going to be as good as the individuals that are around them and the individuals that are willing to hold them accountable. I don't care what party you are a part of. If you are running the state of Florida and people are in need, you need to find yourself where they are, and you need to find the resources, and you need to present it to them. That's what leaders do.
Wow, thank you so much. And you said that people of color have not been put to the forefront. They've not been serviced. You keep seeing pictures of just a certain area all the time and talking about the services they're getting, how water was getting to them. But in communities, low income communities, they're not being serviced. And this is why it is important for us to bring information, educate individuals on what's going on and why different people need to be in the office, because of the fact that we're grassroots. All of us started with grassroots. We work in the community, we live in the community, we eat in the community. So therefore we can serve the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I have to say to you, I commend you, in your efforts on the ground, even in response to Hurricane Ian. And there was definitely difficult groups from Palm Beach that had gone there. I've not personally got a chance to go as much as I've supported my colleagues that are over there. We are going to be still going over there because it's been almost a month since it happened, doesn't mean that they don't still have needs. There's still things that needs to happen there.
Right. If the media doesn't show it, people think it's not happening, it's not going on, that everything is restored, everything is dandy, but it is not.
Not at all. And then, Dr. Val, I just thought about it. That's right. Your husband is literally from that area of Fort
Yes,
Myers.
he's from Fort Myers. His family was there and was affected. And, you know, as I said, he was a wildland firefighter there for 30 years. He just recently retired. So, you know, I'm passionate about this because I know the damage that it did to his body. And I want somebody that's in office to say, hey, you know, what about these individuals that are fighting fire day in and day out? They don't only fight the fire here, they also go to California and other um, states that are
Right.
affected by these fires. And then, but yet, as far as resources and health benefits and stuff, they don't continue after they retire. I think they should get the same benefits that someone that's in the military gets. They should have ongoing health care after they leave their job because he sustained 30 years of injury
Yeah.
because of working on those dozers every day, putting in the work, you know. And it's like, I asked him, I said, how did you survive 30 years? Now you're retired. And sometimes his knees are hurting, his back is hurting, his neck's hurting. He can't hardly get out of bed sometimes. But when it was time to punch that clock, he was there through the pain and all. He was there. And then not getting enough attention for those that are on the ground working 24/7.
Dr. Valley, thank you for informing me of this because, you know, I have communicated to the voters and the residents that the Commission of Agriculture is responsible for three things, in my opinion. One, the commission is a manager. Again, you're managing about 1.5, $1.9 billion, some 3,000 plus employees, but the commissioner is also a regulator, right? And lastly, the commissioner is an advocate. The commission is there to advocate for every single
Everyone.
need and every single person that resides in the state. And an individual like your husband who is living this experience, right? He has gone through it. He knows exactly what the end result is after the person has put in 20, 30 years. And he's the best person to communicate to the Commission of Agriculture what the health benefits should look like for somebody who's working in that field. And honestly, I'm listening to you, and that is something that I definitely would love to discuss with you further and discuss with your husband. Because guess what? He's not the only one. He's not the only one. He, you know, he's blessed to have a wife who has a platform and she can have this conversation and
Yes.
communicate it to someone who could possibly be in a position to change it. But how many other families are going through exactly what you're going through right now, and they don't have a platform, they don't have a voice, they're just suffering in silence, in silence.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, like I said, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and enlighten people across South Florida of the position that you're running for. And I hear the passion in your voice. So I know you're going to do the work. You know, people don't just volunteer for this. You
Not
don't
at all, right?
volunteer to take on the weight of this job. You have to be called to it. So I hear the passion in your voice. We're going to have Senator Thurston join back in with us shortly, and you know, so that we can have continue having dialogue. So Dr. J.
I just want to say, you know, come on. It doesn't take a Bible scholar to understand when we see Naomi and Esther together. We just listen. And I have to say, at the Kennedy Johnson Gala, when you spoke, there's one time when I heard you say, "Come on now," and everyone who's ever been to church just went crazy. Because we knew that your passion was also rooted in your faith, in your belief. You've overcome much. You've seen much. I think I've heard more to explain the cabinet and what happens in Florida from you tonight than I probably have
Yeah, I was
in the
totally
last
enlightened.
2 years. And this
Senator
Well,
is
Thurston.
I'm excited too, Dr. Thicklin. But I like when you say you see Naomi and Esther together. You know, how can you go wrong?
how can you go wrong, right? I think we have a responsibility to help get the word out even more. And so I'm going to say to you, in what way, if you're talking to the audience, in what way, other than voting, in addition to voting, could they be of assistance to your campaign? I mean, do you need door knockers? Do you need people out there to do so? We're going to share this, and we're going to share this all over.
Yes.
So
there's three. Thank you so very much, Dr. Thicklin. There are three things that I have been asking everybody for. Number one, going on my Facebook and printing one of my flyers and winning your block for Naomi. That means that if you have 12 house or residents on your block, you print out 12 flyers, you knock on their door, and you win those 12 people. And once you win those 12 people, you have done your part. Second, I've asked every single one that can to please donate. We have gone through an uphill battle with really putting the finances within needed to run a strong campaign. Nevertheless, we have done the best that we can with what we have, and by God's grace, we've been able to make it this far. Nevertheless, my opponent has millions, while I've only raised thousands. And so the reality of it is, if we do not mobilize our individual blocks, our individual cities, and our individual counties, we will not win this. And we know it is ours to win. Last but not least,
How do they donate?
So you can donate at NaomiBlemur.com. I will drop the link right now in the chat, so you can just go there and make a donation. No donation is too small. The maximum is $3,000. Last but not least, I want to take the time out so I talked about winning your block for Naomi. I talked about donating. And of course, we talked about being able to vote. There's something that I want to really take the time out to talk tonight. And Senator Thurston talked about it, about suppressing the votes. But he talked about it from the other party, right? Actually finding ways to suppress Black and brown votes. Tonight, I would like to talk about members or independent organizations within the Democratic Party suppressing the votes. Because it has come to my attention that there are slates that they are literally whiting out my name off the slates in Miami-Dade County.
Wow.
So it's not just that we have our own. So it's not that we have issues with the Republican Party that, we know exists. And Senator Thurston talked about that. So I don't have to belabor that. We already know what's going on with that party. But I want to talk about within our own party. Okay, while I am the first woman of color in the history of the state to qualify to run for the seat and win the party nomination, and I'm also the first Haitian American to ever run a statewide race, for people to send me slates where they literally took whiteout and they wiped my name out. That is unacceptable within our party. And we should call it out and not allow these bad actors who pose as community leaders, pose as independent organizations that want to elect Democrats. But when there's a Black Haitian woman on the ballot, you want to white out her name. So I want to make sure that every person who is watching this, for you to know that the cabinet position includes 3 individuals. You have the CFO, you have the Attorney General, and you have the Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Do not leave that blank. Because if you go and vote and you leave that blank, guess what? You are giving that vote to my opponent. You are giving my opponent a better chance of him becoming the next Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And this is the same man who was behind the Don't Say Gay bill. This is the same man that brought forth the 15-week ban. Mind you, you're saying that a woman of color, a woman of Haitian descent is not good enough. You're whiting out her name, but to give the seat to who? And so I wanted to really take the time out to share that with you also, that you are completely aware of what's going on. It is not just the Republican Party that is trying to silence us and not or working to suppress our votes. There are members within our own party right now that is doing that where I'm concerned.
Well, that's very disappointing to hear that, and certainly we should call them out for it. And if there's anything that we can do to help do that, because there are a number of slates here in Broward County, and I've participated in quite a few, but all of them have your name on it. I can tell you that. And even if people in the community didn't know you, we're pushing your name and we're putting it on the slate that
It's
this is
right
the
there on the
vote.
screen.
Absolutely. And that we want everybody to vote for you. And certainly we know that all campaigns need finances. And certainly if anyone's able to, let's go ahead and donate. But if there's anybody who has any more knowledge about what's going on in Dade County and if people are actually doing those types of things, we should call them out and get to the bottom of it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Senator Thurston. And shout out to Broward County. I won Broward County by over 80,000 votes. Broward County was the number one county for me. Out of 67 counties, I won 63, and Broward came in number one. So I know that the leaders in Broward are really down for the cause. They're down for the people. And where Broward is concerned, we're going to make it happen. So thank you so very much for you all leadership.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. You know, evil prevails when good men and women do nothing. It's
Right?
time for us. That was from Edmund Burke. It is time for us to stop sitting by looking, wanting somebody else to take action, wanting somebody else to do something. It is up to us to utilize our rights and vote. Somebody's going to win. Why not vote for someone you at least have knowledge of right now?
Well, I'm looking to engage you, and I know we only have a few days to it. We're doing some Souls to the Polls activities in Palm Beach County this weekend, so we will. I am going to go to your website. I'm going to see what all we can do there, but definitely if you could have your campaign manager to reach back out to me. He does have my number and my email address to see what we can do. I am going to definitely probably be convening a Clergy Alliance meeting that is coming up here in the next week or so, and we will see if you got time to be able to come in and speak, via Zoom, to the Clergy Alliance. And we have to do this. We have to stand with you. We have to stand beside you. We have to do so. It is necessary. It is necessary. It's not just a matter of history being made. It's good because we're living a day and time. We've got to make it far and in between that we're still saying the first black, the first. Hey,
Right.
look at we've got to make it so that it becomes something that is expected, something that is natural. But there's always a first, and we're very excited about you being the first. And we're excited not because you look like us, not because you're one of us, but we're excited also because of the fact that you are passionate about this. You've
Passionate.
educated us. Listen, we have no doubt that given the opportunity that you will do the job.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. It was an honor and a privilege to be here. Yes, I look forward to having my campaign manager connect with you and see what my schedule looks like for the Souls to the Polls. I'm definitely looking forward to those opportunities. I know I can win this, and I know without a shadow of doubt that the anointing of God is upon me to do it. So, with leaders such as yourself, the senator, I know for a fact that the win is inevitable. It's inevitable. Come November 8th, I will become the next Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Florida. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I tell you, what can I say? I'm well pleased. I'm well pleased.
Yeah, it's well done. Like I said, I'm so enlightened. I had no idea what was underneath that umbrella. And I mean, you said from the gas pumps into nonprofits. Dr. J and I both have nonprofits. We serve the community. And this is just an extended platform to empower individuals. And this show is globally. So those of you that have tuned in that don't live in South Florida, you know, you have people that you may know in Florida say, hey, I saw this show. Do you know about this person? Check her out. And, get the word out. Get the word. This is grassroots. This is how battles are won. In our community, Dr. J, one
Mhm.
of my friends lost for 5 votes. Everybody
Exactly.
thinks that their vote doesn't count. Yes, it
Yeah,
does.
it does.
Yes, it does.
Absolutely.
People sit back saying, everybody else is voting. Oh, it looks like the ratings are going up. They'll win. They don't need my vote. Every vote counts, because then what happens is when they start counting votes, then they start talking about, oh, it's fake voters in there, and some of them weren't supposed to vote, and it was what was the other person say? Fake voting. What was
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
any
Yeah.
excuse not to let the proper person that was voted in win. And this has got to stop. And it stops with us. And how it stops with us is getting off the couch, turning off the television, going to the polls and pushing a button. And if you can, $5, $10, $20. If you have 1 million people giving $1, she's raised $1 million.
Absolutely.
Grassroots. That's what grassroots does. It's
Exactly.
not everybody else's problem, it's our problem. It is important for us to serve and work in our own communities. Together we stand, divided we're going to fall.
Most definitely. We're excited. We will continue. We'll continue down the look forever. We're going to go to your website. We're going to do those things that are necessary, and we're going to share those with others as well. Most definitely, have your campaign manager to reach back out. I know throughout Palm Beach County on this weekend, from Delray to Boynton to Riviera Beach and other places, souls to the polls, and we take that very seriously. In spite of the voter suppression efforts that has been made, we understand still the power, not only power in the faith-based community, but the power when we come together. Where there's unity, there is strength. And we are the generation of not impossible, but we spell and say, I am possible. You are possible. And that's what impossible means. Notice it's spelled, I am possible. And that is the message that we're saying, that we're possible.
Amen. 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 Thank you so very much. It was an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you so much for
Likewise.
joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Dr. J, let me tell you something. Knowledge is truly power.
Yes, it is.
We don't know what we don't know.
Yes. I'll say this to you, Dr. Val. Although I knew about, with our nonprofit, because I see that agriculture commissioner on the letter and all
Yeah,
that,
on our letter, yeah.
and I have to say, and there's no shade, I knew Nikki Freed. I've been in her company. I've been in her presence. I've talked to her, and as passionate as Nikki was, a little Jewish girl and all that, I did not get this type of education because let me say something. Who considers himself very knowledgeable inside of politics, inside of those things there, and for whatever reason, I never ever look at the cabinet that way in the state of Florida. I didn't. I didn't see it. I just saw it as a department. I did not see it as being a part of that cabinet. She did a thorough job in explaining to us the breadth and the depth of what this
Yes,
position covers.
absolutely.
And I think that in and of itself should be motivation for people to get out and vote.
Yeah,
You think about
it's
it.
making me want to go back and read different things all over again to find out exactly what power is in my community. Because there's
Exactly.
so many resources there on the local level that people don't know about, because they figure, it's just whatever goes on is in the White House. It doesn't happen right here near our
Right.
house.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
if you yeah, we got to be educated to know, reach out to your city hall.
Exactly.
Find out who your mayor is. Find out who the commissioners are and what positions that they hold, that they may be able to assist you, because there are things that are going on in your home, even with FPNL.
Exactly.
You have something going on with your trees and stuff. All that's the city. You want more palm trees in your community? Reach
Exactly.
out to the city. There's a lot of resources and things that are happening right here at the local level, but people don't understand and they don't want to get involved. They don't want to know about the fire department unless they have a fire. They don't want to know about the police department, who's running the organization, until something happens to their loved ones or to their property. We got to be educated. We got to know who's around us, because those individuals
We
that
owe
we
it to
are going
ourselves.
to depend on when tragedy comes.
You're absolutely right. One of the questions I didn't get a chance to ask Senator Thurston was the fact that, I think one of the things that have really crippled us as a people as a whole, I mean, everywhere, is the fact of civics not being taught in school anymore. When we were in
Right.
school and they taught us about the branches of government, and they taught us about these things there, is that really that type of knowledge is not there now. So
They don't even encourage kids to go to college anymore. If you're not playing basketball or football or
some
something, if you're
sport,
not playing a sports, they're not even pushing you to get educated beyond the 12th grade.
right? Yeah, there's a lot has to be done, and I think that we heard some things here today that has motivated us. It's kind of interesting when you interview a person whose energy and passion is so powerful that it seemed to just ignite other things inside of you
Yeah.
about. I mean, that's what was left here. You saw it, and that's what I heard Saturday night. I heard that. I mean, I felt like one of the judges on The Voice. Turned my seat all the way around. Who is this? Because I heard the passion, I heard the concern, I heard the individual that's saying this is not a matter of recognition. I'm not seeking this job, this position because I need a job. I'm not seeking it for some type of platform. I'm seeking it because we can make a difference, and that's very important. Well, this has been powerful on every level, and I encourage us all to become informed, to get involved, to
And
recognize
pass
that.
the show. Send
Yeah,
it, post it on
share.
all your social media
And
platforms,
I'm about
because
that
it's
right now.
information. It is
Right.
information that not only you can use, but maybe a family member or friend could use. Pass the show along and subscribe to Hot Topics from the Soul on YouTube.
Yes,
Dr. J, you know, this is Domestic Violence and Cancer Awareness Month. We have so much to go on, but I have just been consumed about getting people to the polls because it's so crucial. But we're not making light of the fact that, well, cancer and domestic violence doesn't take a holiday, and it doesn't just encompass 1 month. It is every day.
yeah.
It is every
24/7,
day. It
365.
is every day. So we will have some guests on that will be speaking about the before the month's out. We're going to try and have some individuals come in and speak about that. But this voting is very, very important, because even as it relates to domestic violence and cancer, there is
Exactly.
money in our community to protect those that are victims of domestic violence.
Yes,
There is money in the community for you to have mammograms, and we need to be enlightened on where to go and what those resources are. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to another Hot Topics from the Soul, and visit our website. Mine's is from the soul of a woman.com. Dr. J is www.jrthicklin.com.
absolutely.
Thank you so much. Any closing remarks, Dr. J? I'm so full.
Listen,
I have so much is running through my mind.
right.
It's how can we, help individuals that are really trying to fight for our rights and, give us a better playing field. It's just like my mind is just going.
Absolutely. Well, what I want to say is this: early voting has already started. So you can
Mm.
go to your early voting site. And remember,
Across the states.
across the state. So what you have to understand with early voting, wherever that site is, it doesn't matter where you live, you can go, take your voting card there, and you can vote there at that site. Take advantage of early voting right now. You won't have to worry about the lines. take advantage of early voting. Go out and vote. That's what I want to encourage you to do.
Thank you so much and for tuning in to another Hot Topics from the Soul. Good night and God bless.
Good night.